speak about a different subject than what we've been covering up until now. We've done a pretty extensive review of both world history and specifically issues related to post-colonial Africa. In both those cases, we unearthed a set of problems and a set of issues that are very, very difficult. They're issues that are embedded in the political economy of many countries around the world, not only in sub-Saharan Africa. There is, however, a large body of knowledge and many organizations that are really attempting to address many of the weaknesses and the shortcomings that we find in the political economy of particularly the most sort of economically challenged, poor countries, countries suffering from conflict, countries that have suffered from great environmental or humanitarian disasters. And typically we call that assistance or that knowledge. We call it, you could call it foreign aid, you can call it economic development, you can call it technical assistance. There are many names for it, but that's really what the subject of today's talk is. First of all, much of what we consider to be, the important developments in foreign aid flow right back to the Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan was basically devised by the United States after World War II to provide direct assistance to Europe, particularly Germany, which was felt that it was necessary to bring Germany back to be a strong and democratic country, and this was thinking about the rise of the Soviet Union at the time and the threat that the Soviet Union posed to Europe as well as to the United States. So this was really the first major multinational institutional attempt to offer massive economic assistance. In this case, it was to a whole continent, and it was the success of the Marshall Plan and the thinking about how one country or one group of countries can help another, which became the intellectual and moral basis for the development of the aid programs that we have today. It also, interestingly, put the main responsibility for decisions about development on the recipient countries, not planners in the United States. I mean, basically, the U.S. provided the money and encouraged these countries to come up with their own plans on how they wanted to use the money, which industries they wanted to support, and which social programs they wanted to institute. This will become a sort of a challenging notion when we get into Africa and we get into other parts of the world where issues about the capacity of governments to actually create these plans and to manage their aid money responsibly, has been an issue in international development in recent times. So if we look at what foreign aid is supposed to do, what it's supposed to accomplish, we can go to the book that we're reading now, Fixing Failed States, and according to Ghani and Lockhart, the aid establishment is supposed to source and handle money. It's supposed to prepare projects, in dialogue with the recipient nations. Its main objective is to engender change, to change incentives, to change behaviors in the recipient countries. Also to provide technical advice and to produce and in some cases to substitute for state functions where a government is unable to provide this for the majority of people. So we say, what are the main subjects for foreign aid? Well, economic development is one that is sort of at the top of the list, but increasingly, the focus has been on governance reform and making countries more responsible for handling not only the foreign assistance that's given, but also in how it manages its own finances at a local level, at a local and a national level. Capacity development, helping to improve the skill set of bureaucrats in developing countries, providing social services either directly or through governments for topics such as healthcare and education, building infrastructure, roads, buildings, dams, things that are going to underlie economic development, democracy building, human rights, humanitarian assistance, and very importantly, peacekeeping. None of these sort of subjects, none of these activities can really move forward without peace. So who are the main players here? Well, we have a very wide selection of organizations that are involved in foreign aid. We have the multilateral donors, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund. We have regional development banks, UN agencies. Then we have bilateral donors, which are rooted in a particular country. We have U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. We have UK Department for International Development, known as DFID. We have the Swedish International Development Agency. Almost all the European countries have their own foreign aid establishment. Then we have private foundations. We have Gates, Clinton, Carter, Ford, MacArthur, and many more who really just raise money or have money for with endowments and use it for developing programs on their own. Sometimes in concert with the multilateral and bilateral donors, but often on their own. Then you have religious NGOs and charities. You have specialized NGOs, ones that focus on human rights, ones that focus on economic development, some that focus on health, education, all of the topics that we just discussed. Then you also have academic institutions and think tanks, and finally, but last but not least, military organizations. Some say that the U.S. military is the largest aid organization in the world. If you look at the programs that were instituted in Iraq and Afghanistan, you see that the Army was acting very much like a development organization. Then we get into the problems with foreign aid. According to Ghani and Lockhart, this aid can often undermine a national budget because it's it's money that just shows up, and it really has, in many cases, no accountability attached to it. It also can undermine national bureaucracies. You can set up a dual bureaucracy where you have people working in the government who are funded by international aid money. They get a much higher salary than people who are nationals who also work often in the same office. It certainly is the case that foreign aid can enrich foreign consultants. There's no question that a lot of foreign aid projects pay very well. However, they're largely unsustainable, meaning that once the aid goes away, the projects often go away as well. So unless the donor is staying for the long term, these projects often have a small shelf life. There's also a largely uncoordinated response to complex problems without adequate controls and oversight. and this results in duplication of effort, wasted resources, and a large sort of part of the work of bureaucracies in aid recipient countries is simply managing all the complexity of foreign aid. And then if we just look at one significant number, African aid gives about $4 billion to 100,000 expats who are providing various types of technical assistance and services to and through all of those aid organizations which we just mentioned. So it sounds like kind of a grim and complex set of issues, and it's certainly it's important not to minimize the difficulties with foreign aid. Yet there hasn't really been any serious reform of this system. Sort of the aid recipient countries, are critical, but they don't want to rock the boat. The aid donor countries and the multilateral organizations, they're so much tied up in sort of this way of doing things that they're very reluctant to change. But if we look at around the world, we see that that there have been some development success stories which aren't necessarily related to the methodology that exists today in the aid establishment. I mentioned Germany. Germany was completely destroyed in 1945. It worked through the Marshall Plan and through its own efforts, and now we know it's the most powerful economy in Europe. So Germany is a kind of remarkable success story, and there are many factors that go into it, but certainly being dependent on foreign aid for a long term wasn't one of the factors. Then we have China, which is the fastest developing nation in world history, and they brought more people out of poverty than any other country, and they've done that largely without international assistance. Also, South Korea was poorer than Ghana in 1960, but through a combination of state planning, with a really strong emphasis on education and capacity building, and also a fair amount of aid from the UN and its main ally, the United States, which really wanted to build a strong democratic country in South Korea to sort of be a bulwark against North Korea. Then in the Middle East, we have Dubai, which is a very interesting place. It's sort of a combination of Miami, New York, and Silicon Valley, all rolled into one, sitting on the edge of the Arabian Peninsula. There's been a heavy emphasis on public-private partnerships in Dubai. Certainly the presence of all that oil wealth has helped to create a one of the really few success stories in the Middle East, but one which seems sustainable and has a long-term prospect for success. So this is a little bit about foreign aid. It's important to understand it because it's really through this lens that we start thinking about solutions to the problems that we've been reading about throughout the semester. The important thing to bear in mind, though, is that these are in many cases very, very intractable problems. There's no easy solution. There's been a lot of time and money and effort thrown at these solutions over the years, and yet we're yet to find the golden key to unlock prosperity for a large portion of the people who live on the planet. So thanks, and I'll talk to you again very soon.